With saving for a down payment on a home increasingly challenging and home prices still out of reach for many, some people are opting to forever rent homes. And a recently NerdWallet new study shows that that's the case for about a third of renters. Consumer investigator Rachel DePompa found out what you need to know about renters insurance.
A perk of renting is that the property owner must make repairs and is responsible for insuring the building you are living in. But that property owner's insurance only goes so far. It won't pay to replace your personal belongings if a fire destroys the building or a thief breaks into your apartment. So if you are renting for the foreseeable future and need a financial safety net, Kim Palmer, a personal finance expert with NerdWallet, says renter's insurance is a fairly cheap option.
And what's really surprising to people is how affordable it is. On average, renter's insurance costs only $12 a month, and it covers all of your personal belongings. So if you experience something like something is stolen from you or damaged, then the renter's insurance actually covers the cost to replace your personal items.
Palmer says one thing to note here is that if you do have some really valuable items like artwork or jewelry, you might need an additional rider on your insurance policy just to make sure all of it is covered.
In some cases, you can actually split the cost of renter's insurance with your roommate. So you do want to make sure that you and your roommate are on the same page, and that if one of you takes out their insurance policy and the other is paying half, that you have that conversation to make sure that you are splitting it and that it is fairly divided.
Palmer says also read the policy closely, and it's important to note in general, many of these policies don't cover natural disasters like damage from a hurricane. And she says you might want to consider bundling a renter's insurance policy with other insurance policies to lower your cost even more. With this Watch in Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
Rachel, thank you for that report. Changing gears, Boeing workers at its Washington facilities are still on the picket line as negotiators between contract talks, they start again this week. Now, the strike started last Friday, so it's too early to predict the full financial impact. If it is resolved this week, it won't hurt the company's bottom line. But if it stretches on for weeks, like the 2008's 8-week-long strike, the hit could be substantial. That 2008 strike cost Boeing $1.2 billion. The embattled aircraft maker has lost $33 billion since 2019 due to various issues. Well, on our consumer alert, Volkswagen is recalling nearly 100,000 ID.4 electric crossover SUVs for model years 2021 to this year, 2024. The door handles may allow water to get into the circuit board, which could cause the doors to open unexpectedly. Volkswagen's dealers will inspect and replace the door handles and update the vehicle software for free. Well, still to come for you on Valley News Live at 4, the man suspected in an apparent assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump now faces federal gun charges. We'll have that story. Plus, meteorologist Joseph Williams will give us a look at our forecast and what we can expect for today, which is a first alert weather day.